Jell-O molds that shimmered like stained glass casseroles built from cans and cream soups and cakes flipped upside down with a flourish. The 1,952nd table was full of surprises. It was a decade when food balanced between comfort and experiment, tradition and convenience. Families gathered not just to eat, but to marvel at what Mom pulled from the oven. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe. Today we're revisiting 10 forgotten dishes from the 1,952nd that make today's meals look gourmet. If you wanted to impress guests in the 1,952nd, nothing topped baked Alaska. A sponge cake base, a mound of ice cream, and a crown of meringue peaks browned quickly in the oven. It was part dessert, part spectacle. Hosts loved presenting it with a flourish as if pulling off a culinary magic trick. For many families, this wasn't just food, it was entertainment at the dinner table. But the truth was, it took time, skill, and precision. As boxed cakes, instant puddings, and simpler desserts took over, baked Alaska's place on the table slipped away. Most modern cooks don't even attempt it, and younger generations often don't know what it is at all. So here's the big question. If someone made you a baked Alaska today, would you find it charmingly retro or just over the top? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this sweet ride through food history, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around. We've got plenty more nostalgic journeys coming your way. Before supermarkets carried fresh produce, year-round canned fruit cocktail was the shortcut to sweetness in every 1,952nd pantry. A colorful mix of peaches, pears, grapes, and those unmistakable red cherries floated in thick syrup, ready to be spooned into a glass dish and topped with a dollop of whipped cream. For guests, it was a simple but elegant treat, often served in little glass bowls that made it feel special. The syrupy sweetness, however, didn't age well. As fresh fruit became more affordable and health concerns grew, people began to trade those heavy canned mixes for crisp apples, juicy strawberries, and seasonal produce. The once beloved cocktail faded into nostalgia. So, let's compare. When you were growing up, did your family keep cans of fruit cocktail on the shelf, or did you get fresh fruit instead? And do you think today's kids would even touch those syrup-soaked grapes? Share your take, I'd love to. Hear whether you see this as a forgotten classic or a sugary relic. Known by soldiers as SOS chipped beef on toast, was a dish that carried military roots into American homes. Imagine dried salty beef sliced thin and folded into a creamy white sauce ladled over toasted bread. It was cheap, hearty, and filling, the kind of meal that stuck to your ribs. In the 1,952nd, many families adopted it as a quick breakfast or lunch, often out of nostalgia or sheer practicality. But while it did the job, its grayish look and heavy salt content didn't exactly win over future generations. As more appealing breakfast options emerged, SOS became less of a staple and more of a story told by veterans and grandparents. Here's where I want your take. Would you call this a comfort food worth reviving or a survival meal best left in the past? Drop your vote in the comments. And if you're enjoying these forgotten flavors, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Your support helps keep these memories alive. If there was one dish that defined mid-century comfort food, it was tuna noodle casserole. Built from pantry staples, canned tuna, cream of mushroom soup, egg noodles, and sometimes a topping of crushed potato chips, it was the weeknight hero for busy moms. Cheap filling and able to feed a crowd, it became a symbol of practicality and post-war ingenuity. The flavors were creamy and salty, the texture dense but familiar. Picture a bubbling casserole dish pulled from the oven, the crispy topping giving way to steamy noodles beneath. For kids, it was either comfort or monotony. For parents, it was efficiency on a plate. Over time, though, lighter and fresher meals began to take over, and casseroles like this one started to feel dated. So here's a memory check. Did your mom or grandma ever serve this dish at family gatherings? Maybe you loved it, maybe you dreaded it. Share your memory in the comments, because nothing sparks nostalgia quite like the smell of mushroom soup and noodles baking in the oven. Aspic was the glamorous cousin of Jell-O, a savory, crystal-clear gelatin that encased meats, seafood, or vegetables in sculpted perfection. In the 1,952nd, serving a shrimp cocktail shimmering inside an aspic dome wasn't just food, it was a status symbol. Housewives clipped recipes from glossy magazines, eager to impress guests with this daring blend of science and elegance. On paper, it looked sophisticated. In reality, cold meat suspended in jelly wasn't everyone's idea of appetizing. As tastes modernized, people began to question whether presentation should outweigh flavor. Slowly, aspic faded from the spotlight, living on mostly in culinary textbooks rather than kitchen tables. So tell me, if you sat down at a dinner party and someone unveiled a sparkling mold of aspic, would you take a slice out of politeness or pass with a nervous smile? Drop your reaction in the comments, because this is one of those dishes people either admire or avoid. And if you love reliving these quirky food experiments, don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got plenty more flavors from the past to uncover. For families in the 1952nd, liver and onions were more than just dinner. They were considered a nutritious powerhouse. Parents praised its iron-rich content, insisting it would put hair on your chest, while kids often pinched their noses at the strong aroma drifting through the house. The sizzling onions could fill an entire kitchen, making the dish hard to ignore whether you wanted it or not. The appeal was practical, liver was affordable, hearty, and readily available. But as tastes evolved, organ meats lost their standing on American dinner tables. Leaner cuts of beef and chicken breasts became the new standard, while liver got pushed aside, remembered more for the smell than the flavor. So here's the split. Are you Team A, those who believe liver and onions deserve respect as a forgotten classic? Or Team B, the ones who would never let a forkful near their plate? Type A or B in the comments, and let's see which side wins. Sometimes the most divisive dishes leave the strongest memories. Few desserts of the 1952nd made a statement quite like pineapple upside-down cake. Picture it: golden sponge baked in a cast-iron skillet topped with glistening rings of canned pineapple and dotted with bright red maraschino cherries. When flipped onto a plate, it looked like sunshine captured in dessert form. Housewives took pride in nailing the perfect caramelized topping, and serving one at a dinner party felt like showing off culinary flair. The cake wasn't just about flavor, it was about presentation. The colors popped, the syrupy sweetness filled the room, and guests often gasped before taking that first bite. But as boxed cake mixes exploded in popularity and newer dessert trends took center stage, this once-beloved treat slowly fell out of rotation. Today it's remembered with fond nostalgia rather than regular appearances at potlucks. So let's hear it. If you had to choose, would you bring this classic back for a modern dinner party or leave it in the past? Share your thoughts below. And if you're enjoying these sweet trips down memory lane, hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the next slice of nostalgia. Spam wasn't just a wartime ration, it became a true staple of 1952nd kitchens. Cheap, salty, and endlessly versatile, it found its way into frying pans, casseroles, sandwiches, and even lunchboxes. For budget-conscious families, a single can of Spam could stretch into multiple meals, and kids across America remember opening their lunch to find a Spam sandwich wrapped in wax paper. The unique taste was part comfort, part curiosity. Imagine the sizzle of a thick slice frying in a cast-iron skillet, filling the kitchen with its unmistakable aroma. For some, that smell meant dinner was ready. For others, it was something to endure. As America grew wealthier and fresh cuts of meat became more affordable, Spam slowly slipped out of the mainstream menu. Today, it's more of a cultural icon than an everyday dish. Here's the debate: would you call Spam a clever survival food or a questionable substitute for real meat? Drop your take in the comments. I'm betting opinions will be divided. And who knows, maybe you still keep a can in your pantry just in case. When Swanson introduced the television dinner in 1953, it felt like pure magic. Imagine pulling a shiny aluminum tray from the oven slices of turkey, with stuffing a side of peas, maybe even a little brownie, all in one neat package. Families didn't have to fuss in the kitchen. Instead, they gathered around their black and white televisions to watch I Love Lucy while eating a full meal off their laps. It was convenience wrapped in novelty, and for many families it felt futuristic. But as microwaves took over in the 1972nd, and fresh food made a comeback, those original oven-style television dinners began to feel outdated. What once symbolized modern living slowly turned into a nostalgic relic. Today they're remembered more for the way they shaped family rituals than for their flavor. So, tell me, if you had the chance to relive one moment, would you pick the meal itself, or the memory of sitting together in front of the television? Share your choice in the comments. And if you're enjoying this trip back in time, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We've got plenty more vintage memories to uncover. Back in the 1952nd, no dinner table felt complete without a brightly colored Jell-O mold at its center. But these weren't just sweet, fruity desserts. Homemakers proudly experimented by suspending shredded carrots, canned tuna olives, and sometimes even hot dogs inside those shimmering gelatin rings. It was the height of modern convenience, canned goods, instant mixes, and food science, all wrapped in one wobbly dish. Part of the appeal came from the look. Imagine walking into a church potluck and seeing a gleaming tower of Jell-O that caught the light like stained glass. Guests often marveled before they tasted, though the flavors didn't always live up to the presentation. Over time, as fresh salads and lighter fare became popular, these quirky gelatin creations lost their charm and were quietly retired from family menus. So here's a question for you. If someone placed a tuna-stuffed Jell-O salad on the table today, would you take a polite bite or pass it along untouched? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm curious which side you'd choose. For some, just the sight of those molds brings back memories of family gatherings and kids daring each other to try a spoonful. These weren't just quirky recipes, they were memories of Sunday dinners, potlucks, and a time when families sat together without distractions. Some dishes disappeared for good reason, while others might still deserve a second chance. So tell me, if you could bring one of these foods back, which would it be? Or is there one you'd never dare touch again? Share your story in the comments. Your memories are what keep this history alive. And if you enjoyed this nostalgic journey, hit like and subscribe so you won't miss what's next. Because if you thought the 1952nd had some strange foods, wait until you see the bizarre gadgets of the 1982nd. We've got a whole video on that waiting for you.